you've built the foundation. You understand that mastering fundamentals beats fancy techniques every time. But now comes the next level of Musashi's system, something so powerful that it transformed him from just another skilled swordsman into an unstoppable force of nature. Welcome to the Water Book. Water. Think about it for a moment. It's one of the most powerful forces on Earth, yet it appears completely effortless. Water doesn't fight mountains. It flows around them. It doesn't battle rocks. It gradually reshapes them. Over time, water carves the Grand Canyon, yet a single drop seems harmless. This is the essence of Musashi's Water Book. Adaptive power that appears effortless but is absolutely unstoppable. Here's what blew my mind when I first understood this concept. Musashi realized that after you've mastered the fundamentals, after you've built that unshakable earth foundation, you need to become like water, flexible, adaptive, able to take the shape of any container while maintaining your essential nature. But this isn't about being weak or passive. Water is the most persistent force in nature. The Water Book teaches what Musashi calls the spirit of water, the ability to adapt your approach to any situation while never losing sight of your objective. In sword fighting, this meant reading your opponent instantly and adjusting your strategy in real time. Against an aggressive fighter, you become defensive and flowing. Against a defensive fighter, you become the relentless pressure that finds every weakness. But here's where it gets really interesting for us today. Musashi wasn't just talking about physical combat. He was describing a fundamental principle of success that applies to everything. The most successful people, businesses, and strategies are those that can adapt while staying true to their core principles. They're like water, flexible in form, but consistent in essence. Let me give you a modern example that perfectly illustrates Water Book thinking. Netflix started as a DVD by mail service. When streaming technology emerged, they didn't fight the change. They flowed with it. When original content became important, they adapted again. Now they're a global entertainment powerhouse. That's water strategy, maintaining your core mission while constantly adapting your methods. Musashi breaks down the Water Book into specific principles that will revolutionize how you approach challenges. The first is what he calls no fixed stance. In sword fighting, this meant never getting locked into one position. The moment you become rigid, you become predictable. The moment you become predictable, you become vulnerable. In your life, this means avoiding mental rigidity. How many people do you know who are stuck because they can't adapt to change? They've invested so much in one way of thinking, one approach, one identity, that when the world shifts, they break instead of bend. Water Book thinking makes you anti-fragile. You don't just survive change. You use it to become stronger. The second principle is taking the shape of the container. Water perfectly fills whatever vessel contains it, but it never loses its essential nature. For Musashi, this meant adapting your fighting style to each opponent while maintaining your strategic principles. You become exactly what the situation requires without compromising who you are. Think about the most successful people you know. They can walk into any room, boardroom, family gathering, casual party, and fit perfectly. They speak the language of each environment, understand the unwritten rules, connect with people naturally. But underneath, their core values and principles remain constant. They're taking the shape of the container while maintaining their essential nature. But here's the advanced level that most people miss. Musashi teaches something he calls becoming one with the sword. In the water book, this evolves into becoming one with the flow. You stop fighting against circumstances and start moving with them so skillfully that you can direct the flow itself. This is where most people get confused. They think being like water means being passive, just going with the flow. But Musashi is teaching something far more sophisticated. He's teaching you to become so skilled at reading situations and adapting to them that you can actually influence and direct outcomes. You're not just reacting, you're creating. Here's a practical example. Imagine you're in a difficult negotiation. The water book approach isn't to go in with a rigid strategy and stick to it no matter what. Instead, you read the room, understand what the other party really needs, adapt your approach in real time, and find solutions that seem to emerge naturally from the conversation itself. You're flowing like water while subtly directing the current. Musashi also introduces a concept that's absolutely crucial: the timing of water. Water doesn't rush when patience is needed, and it doesn't hesitate when action is required. A gentle stream can flow for miles, but when the dam breaks, that same water becomes an unstoppable torrent. Knowing when to be, which is the mark of mastery. This timing principle is everything in modern life. There's a time to be patient and persistent, like water wearing away stone. There's a time to be forceful and direct, like a tsunami. The water book teaches you to develop such sensitivity to timing that you know instinctively when to apply which approach. But here's what makes the water book truly revolutionary. Musashi realized the water never fights water. When two streams meet, they don't battle for dominance. They merge and flow together, becoming stronger. This principle transforms how you handle conflict and competition. Instead of seeing every interaction as a battle to be won, you start looking for ways to merge strengths, to find the path that benefits everyone involved. This doesn't make you weak. It makes you incredibly powerful. You're not wasting energy fighting against forces you can work with instead. The water book also teaches what Musashi calls constant movement. Water is never truly still. Even in the calmest lake, there's constant subtle movement beneath the surface. This principle means never becoming complacent, never stopping your growth and adaptation, always maintaining that subtle momentum that keeps you ready for any change. In practical terms, this means continuously learning, continuously adapting, continuously improving. Not in a frantic, anxious way, but with the steady, persistent flow of water. You're always in motion, always growing, always ready to adapt to new circumstances. One of the most powerful water book concepts is finding the path of least resistance. But this doesn't mean taking the easy way out. Water finds the most efficient path to its destination. It doesn't waste energy fighting obstacles. It can flow around. But it will carve through solid rock when that's the most direct path. This principle revolutionizes how you approach obstacles. Instead of just pushing harder when you meet resistance, you develop the wisdom to know when to flow around problems and when to flow through them. Sometimes the fastest way to your goal is the indirect path. Sometimes the slowest approach gets you there faster than rushing. Musashi takes this even deeper with what he calls the water mind. This is a state of consciousness that's completely present and responsive, like the surface of a perfect lake that reflects everything clearly while being disturbed by nothing. You see situations exactly as they are, without the distortion of ego, fear, or wishful thinking. Developing water mind means training yourself to respond rather than react. Reactions are rigid, automatic, often counterproductive. Responses are fluid, thoughtful, perfectly calibrated to the situation. When someone is angry at you, a reaction might be to get angry back. A response might be to remain calm and address the underlying concern. Water doesn't fight fire, it extinguishes it. The final lesson of the water book might be the most profound. Understanding that adaptation isn't about losing yourself. It's about expressing your truest nature in the most effective way for each situation. Water is always water, whether it's a gentle rain, a flowing river, or a powerful ocean. Your core remains constant while your expression adapts. This is the secret that separates true masters from everyone else. They've developed such deep self-knowledge and such fluid adaptability that they can be completely authentic while being perfectly appropriate to any situation. They're not putting on an act. They're expressing different aspects of their true nature. The Water Book builds directly on the Earth Foundation you've already established. You have your unshakable core principles from the Earth Book. Now you learn to express those principles fluidly in any situation. You become like water, soft enough to flow around obstacles, powerful enough to carve canyons, adaptive enough to take any shape, persistent enough to reshape the world. This is just the second ring of 5, but already you can see how these principles stack and reinforce each other. The Earth Book gave you strength. The Water Book gives you adaptability. Together, they create a foundation of flexible strength that can handle anything life throws at you. But we're just getting started. Next comes the Fire Book, where Musashi teaches you not just how to flow like water, but how to strike like lightning when the moment demands it. The combination of Earth's foundation, water's adaptability, and fire's decisive action creates something truly unstoppable. The samurai understood that mastery isn't about perfecting one approach. It's about seamlessly flowing between different modes of being as the situation requires. Earth when you need stability, water when you need adaptability, and as we'll see next, fire when you need explosive action. I share timeless wisdom like this every week. Subscribe for more ancient strategies that work in the modern world.